Let's get warmed up for 2022. I'm going to try my hand at another 5-minute lens review. Hopefully one of many, and hopefully only 5 minutes. But this one will be for the Sony Zeiss FE 55mm 1.8 lens. Now, for those who don't know, this is one of the first lenses ever released on the Sony FE mount when they first went into full frame with the Sony A7 and the A7R, along with the 35mm Sony Zeiss f2.8 lens, as well as the kit lens that came with both of those cameras. So the question, I guess, will be, does this lens still hold up in 2022, and is it worth buying over any of the other 50-ish millimeter options in this mount? It is, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so starting with the build quality of this lens, it's all metal construction. This is back when Sony and all the lenses were pretty much all metal, especially the primes, not necessarily the kit lens, obviously. But this is also before they started putting any kind of physical features on their lenses. So you'll find no aperture ring, no focus hold buttons, no AF, MF switch, none of that good stuff. But you will find a very understated, kind of classic Sony styled lens with the Zeiss badge on the side, and of course the top engravings that I love on all first party lenses for Sony. Other than that, really not much to talk about. Solid build quality, black metal, will chip and scratch though, so keep that in mind. That it will show wear and tear, but it is a solidly built lens, I have to say. For just some quick specs, otherwise you have a 49mm filter on it, the Zeiss T-Star coating that they're kind of famous for, and that is pretty much it. It does come with this very thick plastic pedal shaped lens hood that I find too big, but it is very nice quality. It's very thick plastic. So if you're into lens hoods, this one comes with a good one. Other than that, not much to write home about because there's no features on the lens itself at all. As you can see here on this A9, it's reasonably small and compact. You can't tell from the video, but it's also pretty lightweight. It is a little heavier than if it was made out of plastic, of course, because it is all metal, but it's still very manageable, especially in the world of f1.4, 1.2 lenses in the same focal length. But other than that, I think it strikes a good compromise between some of the smaller primes like the Sony 50mm f2.5, I believe they have, and the larger counterparts like the Sony Zeiss 1.4 and the GM 1.2 lens. Those lenses are huge. Of course, they have benefits for light gathering and subject separation, but this has a little trick up its sleeve that I think still makes it worth buying in 2022. So let's get into that next. The thing that makes this lens unique to me is it's kind of hard to put into words. Essentially for me, I really love the way it isolates subjects. And I'm not simply talking about shooting this wide open and blurring out everything. That's not what I mean. What I mean is it has this quality where everything that you focus on is very text sharp and just extremely, like just crisp, right? Nice micro contrast, that Zeiss micro contrast that people talk about. Sure, you have that. However, what I find interesting is the way that things transition from being fully in focus to out of focus. It's very smooth while also being pretty abrupt. What that results in for me is that things pop even more so than you would expect for f1.8 lens, and things kind of jump out from the background when you shoot it in the right shooting conditions. And that to me gives this a pretty unique look in that way. Now, it's not unique in the way that it has all these other flaws and imperfections that give it that character that people like. In fact, a lot of people find this lens, I think, pretty sterile, which I don't really understand that. However, it is unique to me in that I just find that sometimes when I take an image with this and I look at it and I'm like, that doesn't look like I shot that at f2 or f2.2 or 2.5 or even 1.8. It looks like I'm getting more subject separation than what is shown to me in the EXIF data. So I don't know exactly what that is. Like I said, it's hard to explain. It's hard to kind of put into words. It's not really tangible, but it's something I noticed in the images. And if I notice it, then it's enough reason for me to get it and to continue using this, and for this to continue remaining one of my favorite 50-ish millimeter lenses that I've ever used. Pardon this interruption. But one positive thing I forgot to mention about this lens is that even though it's an older Sony lens, it still autofocuses very quickly and very confidently especially on the newer Sony bodies. So the motors in this lens are still fast enough to keep up with the autofocus algorithms in these Sony cameras. In fact, you're viewing it right now on the A7C. You'll see it's keeping up with me pretty well. So why don't we do a quick autofocus acquisition test while we're at it, I suppose. And you'll also see a little bit of focus breathing, which I also mentioned in the next section. If I can get this to focus here. Go back to me. But yeah, just wanted to say that it's still good for autofocusing, even though it's an older Sony lens. So no worries there, and definitely is not a hindrance in any way at all. Anyways, back to the video. Okay, so I mean, this lens is not perfect. It's got a little bit of chromatic aberration. It can be a little extreme in certain situations, but it's very easy to clean up, and it's not even something that typically bothers me. And if it does, I'll just clean it up in post. And then it's got bad focus breathing if you try to shoot video with it. I don't, so it's not an issue for me. But worth mentioning those two things. I have seen some of the bokeh balls get kind of cat's eye or football in the corners, but doesn't bother me at all, and it happens with a lot of very fast lenses, even though this is not super fast. But just worth mentioning to you if that's something that matters to you. What matters to me is that this offers me a kind of unique look and allows me to achieve my goal of subject isolation without being too big and having to shoot at 1.4, 1.2. And that's what makes this lens unique for me, and that's why I think it's worth buying. Price wise, and I mean, last I looked, you can get this lens on the used market for around $500 to $600, give or take $50 if you know where to look, and depending on the condition of the lens. Brand new, when it first released, it was, in my opinion, still a little overpriced for what you're getting at $850 or $900, around that price point. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a good buy at that price point, but if you get a good used copy, absolutely worth buying. And this is why every time I've shot Sony, because I've been on Sony, I've been away and I've come back, I always make sure I pick this lens up. It's my favorite 50-ish millimeter lens, right up there with the Fujifilm 35mm f1.4 for me. So that's it. I'm sure this is busted and we're over 5 minutes. So hopefully you guys have a good start to the new year, and tune in whenever I find time to make more of these 5-minute lens review videos. Peace.